Hi there, wig lover! This is Heather from CysterWigs.com, and today I'm bringing you a review of another Envy wig. This one is called Francesca, and the color on Francesca is chocolate cherry. Now before I get into the cut itself, I'm going to discuss the color. As I've mentioned in previous videos, this is actually one of my favorite Envy colors. It looks a lot like Cayenne Spice by Noriko with just a little bit more red in it. So this has a dark brown base, and you can see more of the dark brown down here at the nape as well as here at the roots. This is one of their rooted colors. In addition to that, you have a blended highlight shade. Let me point it closer to the side. Natural light is coming in through this side and not this side, so you'll be able to see the color more intensely over here. You can see that this is a blend of a number 33, which is a dark natural auburn, and you can see little hints of that throughout. But it also has a substantial amount of either a 130 or a 133, which would be a really intense dark copper color. So very, very beautiful dark coppery shade. So I know that the name throws a lot of people off because they think that cherry indicates that this is going to be a blue-based red similar to a burgundy. That is not the case. This is definitely more of an intense dark coppery highlight. Very pretty color though. And I really love it in any wig that's got a lot of layering and a lot of depth to it, because this will just enhance it. Any of their highlighted shades will do that. And Envy has some really gorgeous highlighted shades. So, now that we've put a spotlight on the color, I want to talk about this wig a little bit. Now right off the bat, I mean, I've only had it on my head for about 5 minutes, so it hasn't really had time to adjust to the shape of my head. So the fact that it's tight isn't really surprising to me. What is surprising to me is just how much more tight this wig is than comparable Envy styles such as L. I didn't consider L to be nearly as tight as this particular wig is. Now that being said, I don't think that it's super, super, super tight, but I think that it would take a while for me to kind of break this in and make it a little bit more comfortable. I don't return wigs because they're snug, because especially if they're open cap, I mean, it might be a different story. I have returned a wig for being too tight that was a 100% hand-tied wig, but that's just because modifying a completely hand-tied wig is really laborious. It's very difficult because you could very easily snag the materials depending on what it's made out of. But to modify an open cap wig, or at least a wig that's got an open back, is very simple, and all it requires is to make a cut right behind where the ear tab is, insert a little band of elastic that matches the elastic going around. Just make sure you don't cut any of the wefting, and boom, your wig cap instantly becomes that much looser. And your sewing skills are minimal. You don't need to, break out the sewing machine. You can do this with a needle and thread. In fact, I actually find it to be easier to do with a needle and thread. So just throwing that out there. It's not a deal breaker to me that the wig is snug. I think that this wig has a really interesting style to it. I think it looks very mod, very retro, but in a good way. I think it's very chic. It's a very pretty kind of tapered bob. I like tapered bobs quite a bit, as you've seen of my repetitive reviewing of Cameron by Renee of Paris. So here's what Francesca looks like on the side. And now the back. And now this side. Now because it's got an open cap with permatease, you can part it in any direction, though I would advise you to refrain from parting it right down the center. And really you don't even need to do that, because the bang actually starts up here at the crown and comes down. This whole part is bang. So it's a very full bang. So let me actually sweep that off to the side a little bit more so you can see what that looks like that way. So here's the inside of the cap. The cap does have some nice features for comfort. For instance, it has a very full felt band here at the top to help make it a little bit more comfortable. You can see that it's open on the top, open on the sides, open in the back. This is what the nape looks like. There isn't any felt there, but there is additional elastic. And the sides, I find these kind of closures kind of tricky, but they're a lot like bra straps. So, I mean, there is a considerable amount of stretch here. It just needs to be worn a little bit so that way it can conform to the shape of my head and that sort of thing. For one thing, the ear tabs are really small, and they're covered in permatease. As far as the consistency of the fibers go, however, and the cut and the color, the styling of this wig is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful wig. The color that I've chosen, as I said before, is one of my favorites. It's gorgeous, very vibrant. Looks beautiful in sunlight. Just a really beautiful wig color. And the fibers themselves feel beautiful. They feel really wonderful, and I think Envy has some of the best feeling fibers, depending on which wig you get. Some of them I know are a little bit funky, but this one has a really lovely feel to it. It's very soft and very silky feeling. Reminds me a little bit of like a Noriko wig. Very, very nice. I love all the layering here in the back. As I said, it's a tapered bob, so it does have a little bit more fullness on top. And believe it or not, the amount of permatease on this wig is actually fairly minimal given the kind of cut that it has. Wigs like Cameron, for example, have substantially more permatease in the cap. The permatease in this wig is right there and on the ear tabs, as I mentioned earlier. And there's a little bit here in the front of the wig. That's also very standard. Like that's not something that really is throwing me off. But yeah, the little pop of permatease is right here at the crown. Here, let me get in here a little bit more so you can actually see it. I'm trying to expose it. It won't look this exposed normally, but I'm intentionally trying to part the hair in a way where you can see the permatease. So that's the only spot on the wig that has permatease. Now that's very nice for people who are permatease averse. For my taste, however, I think it could use a little more. I actually think that this could use a little bit more permatease, especially at the top of the wig. If this wig had just a smidge more body to it, I would be in heaven. I would be absolutely in love, because the reason why I like open cap wigs, well, there are multiple reasons, especially in summertime. They're cooler. They're easier to modify, as I mentioned earlier. They're easier to loosen and tighten up because you don't have to worry so much about damaging the material. They are slightly more durable. They stretch a little bit better, and they ventilate better in the summertime, which is super, super important because you've got all this space for air to get in and out of your hair, which monofilament just traps all that heat in next to your head. So, you know, there are lots of pros and cons to weigh when trying to pick the right cap construction for your hair, especially if you're new to wigs. But I actually really love open cap wigs with a fair amount of permatease. That's why I love the Cameron, and I love May by Noriko, and you know, actually I actually love Noriko wigs. If they fit my head a little bit better right off the bat, I'd probably gold star them all the time. But that being said, this is a beautiful wig. It just has some real minor issues that I hopefully have addressed. So let me go ahead and put this back on. Now, one thing that's really cool about the style of this wig, and the one thing that I think makes it look kind of mod, is how long this front piece here is on the sides here, and then how it just kind of like goes, like it's just long here and not in the hair immediately next to it, and then it's long again at the nape. I think that's really kind of neat, and it does make me think a lot of like the late 60s and the 70s, but in a totally good way. Like, I don't get a dated vibe from this. I just kind of get like that whole mod, I need a shift dress kind of vibe with this particular wig, which is totally cool, you know? I kind of like wish I had that Shirley Manson shift dress from I'm Only Happy When It Rains, and like the boots and the whole thing with this wig, except like, you know, a much larger size than what Shirley Manson wore back in the 90s or now or ever. But I digress. This has been a review of Francesca in the color Chocolate Cherry by Envy. It's a really nice wig, and it's very reasonably priced basically anywhere you get it on the web. So if you don't mind the fact that it might be a little snug when you first take it home and get it out of the box, then you're gonna be fine with this particular style. Because on most people this is gonna fit very well. It's just for us large-headed folks that this is a potential issue, but it's easily remedied. Thanks for watching and have a great night. Bye-bye.